All right, welcome back. We are on episode 3 of Mr. Brooks's Dunbar Biology class 2019-2020. So this Friday, September 20th, you have a quiz on everything we've learned so far in biology. So I thought I'd give a quick 5-minute recap of the review that we did in class on Wednesday and on Thursday. So you can follow along if you want to take notes. Feel free to. If you need to pause the video, feel free to. I'm going to go through it, a little quick recap just to catch you up for those who had been missing class or got switched from classes or missed a day. Should be a recap to be able to catch you up and have you prepared for tomorrow. So here we go. So what you should have out right now is a periodic table and ideally a piece of paper if you want to write something down. If not, if you want to keep it in your head, you can. I feel like it is best for studying purposes to write things down. Helps your brain remember. It's proven that it's better to write rather than to type. So it's your world. I'm just living in it. Do what you feel is best to help you recall this information. Okay, first. So remember, if we're talking about the hierarchy of living things, or if we're talking about the units of life from smallest to largest, we always have to remember atoms are going to be our smallest. So we get a bunch of atoms, put them together, you get a molecule. You get a bunch of molecules, put them together, you end up getting... Start with living things, and you get some cells. The cells right here. Put some cells together, you're going to get tissues. Put tissues together, you get organs. Organs coming together make an organ system. Some examples of organ system: digestive system, cardiovascular system, respiratory system. And then finally, you put all those systems together, you get an organism. Now, some examples of organisms. I'm going to let you think for 1 second. I want you to tell me 3. Good. Living things include plants, animals. Do you know the other one? You can say humans, or we're also considered animals. Bacteria, fungi. Those are some examples of organisms. So tomorrow, in the quiz, they asked to provide 3 examples of organisms. There are some organisms right there. Okay, moving on. What processes are necessary to keep the body temperature stable? So I'm going to let you think, what does the body temperature always want to be at? Correct, 98.5. So what processes are necessary to keep that body temperature stable? So remember, 1, it involves sweat glands. 2, it involves blood vessels. So first, let's talk about the processes that blood vessels do in order to bring your body temperature back to 98.5. So let's say if you're at 100 degrees. You're running outside and playing football, and you want to bring it to 98.5, the 2 things you do, first, your blood vessels, they're going to dilate. So they're going to open up. Why do they want to open up? Correct, they want to release heat. Remember, we want to get that heat out so we can get our temperature back to 98.6. The other things we do, our sweat glands release sweat, and they remove heat. Remember, sweat is just water and salt. So when we do those 2 things, our body is bringing us back to 98.6. Remember that process is called thermoregulation. Thermo, referring to weather, heat, temperature. Regulate, referring to homeostasis, trying to get our body back to its normal state that it wants to be in. Okay, moving on. How do the cells of the liver help the digestive system break down food? So we've talked about this multiple times in class. So we got to think about the liver. What does the liver do? I'm going to give you a second. If you look up page 6 of your notes, if you have your notes, you can find them there. Okay, very good. So remember, the liver, it's made of hepatocytes. And what those hepatocytes do is they filter blood and they take out toxins. So when we think of a liver, we want to think of it as a trash can. Okay? Its job is to remove any waste or toxins that we have. And it's going to end up sending that to the kidneys, which will then release it out of your body because we do not want that in there. If we see a liver that is damaged, we have a normal liver right here. But over time, so people who maybe are alcoholics, if you look at their liver, they are not able to deposit that waste, and you start to see fibrosis, cirrhosis happening to their livers, where they're no longer to get rid of those toxins. Okay, moving on. So what does the small intestine absorb? How does that help the human body function? So remember, the small intestine absorbs the carbs, the fats, and the proteins. A lot of those things give you energy. They help build structures in your body. So they're very important. So remember, carbs, fats, and proteins. Now, can someone recall another word for fat? Boom, bada bing. Lipid. Good. So when you see on the test, when you see lipid, you're going to want to know that that is also a fat. Okay, it's just a fancy scientific word for fat. Okay. Now, moving on. What does the large intestine absorb? How does that help the body function? So remember, large intestine is important. What it's going to do, it's going to absorb all that water, your electrolytes, and some proteins, leftover proteins that were not absorbed from the small intestine. Okay, it's the last pit stop before we run on out of here, and we go through the anal sphincter. When our feces goes out the anal sphincter into the toilet, and then also when we urinate to get rid of that waste. Okay, so our large intestine is important for absorbing that water that makes up a large percent of our body. Okay, right here's a little pathway. So a little overview. Start at the mouth. Chew our food. Our salivary glands release what? Saliva. Good. So that breaks down our food. Okay, makes it easier to swallow. Goes down the esophagus. So if you remember the esophagus, it works with peristalsis. So the esophagus is just squeezing that food. It's that muscle in the throat that's squeezing it and pushing it down. You want to recall, you don't need to know this for the test, but that it wants to get it to a ball. Okay, that ball that goes down your throat, it needs to be small enough to fit down your esophagus. It's called a bolus. So our esophagus is pushing the bolus down through the muscular action of the cells in the esophagus. After the esophagus, where does it go? You're right, the stomach. In the stomach, it's broken down by all these acids. The big acid you need to know is HCl, hydrochloric acid. After that, it's released into the small intestine, where it takes up the carbs, proteins, and fats. Into the large intestine, which takes up what? Good, the water, electrolytes, and then it's released out. Okay. 13.8 billion years ago, huge explosion took place. Scientists theorize we came from what? That's correct, stardust. So, you can find all those stars created all the atoms that are necessary and needed for creating life on this earth. You can find it on the periodic table of elements. So here is a list of 118 atoms or elements. Okay, so on this periodic table, what I want you to find is bromine. Okay, so let's try to find bromine. I'm going to give you 1 second. I'll give you more than 1 second. 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8. Oh, you can pause it. So I'm going to go ahead. So bromine, where are you? So bromine's going to be in group 17, period 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? So bromine's in group 17, period 4. If we want to find the atomic number for bromine, we're going to look above bromine. So when we look above bromine, we see that its atomic number is 35. Now, if you want to find the atomic weight, you're going to look below bromine on the elements, and it says 79.904. Okay? So if we're going to determine the protons, remember the protons and the atomic number are the same thing. Remember the protons and neutrons are found in the nucleus. Protons are same as the atomic number, so we're going to get 35. If we want to just find out the neutrons, very simple. You just take the atomic weight or mass, and you're going to subtract that by the atomic number, which is right here. Okay? So remember, when we do this, if we can, we're going to round it. So 79.904 is going to be rounded to what? Very good. It's going to be rounded to 80 because the 9 is closer to 80 than it would be if it was a 4 or a 3. So 79.9 is going to go to 80. So 80 minus 35 is going to be 45. So how many neutrons we have? Remember, these are going into the nucleus. And then lastly, the electrons are going to be 35, which is the same as the proton. They just have a negative charge. Okay, moving forward. So periodic table. All right, I'm going to run through this really quick. So our properties of water. First one, remember when water molecules stick together, and when they stick to other substances, it's cohesion. Cohesion is when they stick together. Adhesion is when it sticks to other substances. So station 1, we got a little bit of cohesion, adhesion, and a little bit of surface tension as well. Second one, the staples were sunk in the water. Remember that was density. When an object has a higher density than the substance that it is in, it will sink. Station 3, we have the celery sticks that had the color dye. Remember that over 24 hours, the color dye rose up to the top and into the leaves. That property of water was known as what? Good, capillary action. Remember, capillary action is when water goes vertically up against gravity. Okay? Usually this happens in trees and plants. Station 4, we have solubility. That's when water dissolves the salt. Station 5 is polarity. Remember, that's when two substances that have the same charge do not like to mix together. So in this case, the oil and water do not like to mix together, and that's how we get the polarity. In station 6, this would be an example adhesion with the water sticking to the wax paper. Okay. All right, I'll let you look at that. I'll pause that for a second. Those are the property of waters we just went over. Okay. All right, so remember when we did a reaction of baking soda and vinegar, what goes into the reaction, the baking soda and vinegar, that was known as the reactants. And what comes out is known as the products. Good, so what came out after that reaction was a little bit of sodium acetate, a little bit of water, and a little bit of CO2. And what was the CO2 used to blow out? The candle. Very good. So remember, the candle was lit on fire, okay? Just like a fire extinguisher, when a fire extinguisher has a lot of CO2, it'll be able to move away all the oxygen molecules in order to blow out the flame. All right, let's move forward. We only got a little bit left. So these are some examples of chemical reactions. I'm just going to show you them right now. That is not an example of a chemical reaction. No substances are mixing together. We have no reaction. But here's some cooking, rotting, spoiling. Okay, and then one of the biggest chemical reactions is the digestive system. It's consistently breaking down food, turning it into new substances. Remember, the atoms aren't being created or destroyed, they're just being rearranged. Okay. All right, I think that's about it. Remember, the small intestine, what it absorbs is the carbs, fats, and proteins. This will be the last slide that we leave off, so you need to know everything up until the macromolecules. So in your notes, you should know everything from notes page 1 to page 12. Okay. If you have any questions, feel free to post on the Google Classroom. Hope this video was helpful. Have a wonderful Thursday night. If you need anything, let me know.